and you are welcome to the consulting room. We come on your screens every Monday at 8 p.m. and we give you information concerning your health, and we give you comprehensive health information. We give you right from the social background to the medical background to everything, so that you can make good decisions concerning your health. Today in the consulting room, we are going to talk about the use of aphrodisiacs. And I think growing up, it's something that we commonly see around. We all see some abokchis and these concoction sellers selling all these things around. And with me today, I have Dr. Josiah Ando. He's here in the consulting room with me. Good evening.
Good evening.
I also have with me Dr. Isaac Boabe-Nyantechi, and they are going to give us similar but different perspectives on the use of aphrodisiacs. I'm sure as the show goes on, you understand why I said they are similar, but then they are different. And joining us on Zoom during the show would be Mr. Seth Asafo, and we will be talking about aphrodisiacs because before the show today, I was doing a bit of reading, and we have a research that was conducted right here in our country, and particularly in Ashaiman. The research was done by one Stephen Manote and some other people, and the facts they found was that about 52.6, that is almost 53% of men in Ashaiman use aphrodisiacs. And we can extend it to the larger scale, which means almost 50% of men in Ghana are using aphrodisiacs, and about 68%, almost 70% of the 52% using aphrodisiacs are between the ages of 18 and 25. And I keep wondering, what is an 18-year-old boy? I won't call you a man. What's an 18-year-old boy concerning himself with sex, and more so concerning himself with enhancing his abilities in bed? And also, unfortunately, most of the people that use these aphrodisiacs, they are people that have lower educational attainment. So is it that we don't understand the side effects of these aphrodisiacs, or we don't know whether it's good or bad? I think the conversation today will be very interesting, so do well to stay tuned and enjoy the show. So right on to the conversation for the day. Aphrodisiacs, please, what are they? Dr. Nyantechi.
Okay, so from my side, I would say it's any substance that you take in to increase sexual desire, pleasure, and mood, and even strength for sex. So anything that you are taking to enhance sexual support, that I would say is an aphrodisiac.
Okay. Ando.
Yes, yeah, so we'll define it as food or drug, as it were, that is used to enhance sexuality. When we talk about enhancing sexuality, we are talking about desire. Somebody says that, well, I don't feel like having sex, but I take in this drug and it enhances my desire for it. Okay. Or performance. I perform under 1 minute, and I want to take this drug, which is going to make me perform longer than 1 minute. So it's just to enhance your sexuality, mainly, in terms of either desire or performance.
Okay. So I think now we have a basic understanding of what aphrodisiacs are, and I think we all do know what they are. Yeah. Just to make you feel like it or do it more.
Exactly.
Or experience
or do it better.
Or enjoy it more.
Okay. So are there categories of it? Do we have specific categories of aphrodisiacs, or all aphrodisiacs are aphrodisiacs?
Well, for categorization, I would say either there are some for females, there are some for males, and also some are, as he said, some are food, some are herbs, some are actually synthetic compounds. And so that is how I will categorize
Synthetic
it.
compounds, please, what are they?
So let me say we have gone to the lab to actually create it so that we take it in our bodies, like
okay.
medicines.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
which are not natural.
Okay, so food,
Herbs, and then let's say drugs.
The drugs.
Yeah.
Then we have for men and
then
for women.
Yeah.
We can also talk about the ones that are for sex desire enhancement and the ones that are for sex performance enhancement.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we can have, in other words, we can have different levels of categorization.
Yes.
Some for females, some for males, some, you know, so, and I think the categories is mentioned and the one I just added.
They are
Yeah.
all compassing. Do they work? Do aphrodisiacs work?
I didn't see this
Yes.
question coming, actually, at all. You know, do they work? Maybe. Well, but I mean, let's say once we put a particular drug or food item in that category, we cannot actually say they do not work.
Yeah.
I mean, if it is a food substance, so that if it is said that, oh, when you eat this food, this happens to your body, and then I eat it and it happens to my body, then I say, oh, it works. Or if you take this drug, this happens to you. And of course, for the drugs, I mean, Doc has talked about synthetic compound.
Yes.
It's been sent to the lab, it's been mixed, and then they know that this, compound and that in this food substance or in this whatever substance it is, when mixed, can do this.
Yeah.
So we can say they work.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I just want to add a little bit about the drugs. So it has been actually studied to know that, okay, you take one tablet and you are supposed to have this desired effect. But you see, things about sex, people think that the more I take or the more
The better it becomes.
Yes. So we rather doing more harm to ourselves than good. They say
So
too much of everything is bad.
This question, so I'm sure you might not be expecting it, but what is the proper amount of sex somebody is supposed to have?
Oh.
Some people will say, oh, me, I can go 90 minutes. Somebody will say 3 minutes is not good enough. 5 minutes is not enough. So what is the
Well,
scientifically approved one?
Scientifically approved maximum is 12 minutes.
Okay.
For someone, I mean, for a normal sex, it's 12 minutes. So those who are saying 1 hour, I mean, medically, normal sex is 12 minutes. It's fine.
so was your question about time frame of intercourse?
Yes,
Or-
intercourse. Good.
Intercourse.
That was the question.
Yes,
Okay.
that was the
Earlier I
question.
thought your question was about, you see, under the discussion we are having, I want to look at your question in terms of even frequency
Oh, okay.
in all that.
We are,
Yeah.
we are seeing all the perspectives, so I don't mind.
So that somebody says, well, when I have sex today, the next time I feel for sex is 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
And then, so do we then say that when the person has a problem? So that, okay, so there's a wife and there's a husband. And this husband would want to have sex perhaps every day. Or the wife would want to have it every day. Or one thing that it is stressful and all that. So when we talk about the desired, frequency, I will normally say, yes, there is an average. There's a worldwide average where, all couples all over the world have sex about 57 times in a year. That is a little over
Once
a week.
Yeah.
A little over
so
once a week. However, newer couples, like couples before 5 years, in fact, before 3 years,
Of
normally
marriage.
have 3 to 4 times a week. Some 2 to 3 times a week. These are averages. So it depends on the couple. I say it depends on the couple in the sense that a couple can do it every day and they are okay. And it is not abuse, it is not overuse. A couple can do it once a week or once in 2 weeks and the two of them are
They are
okay.
fine.
It is not underused. That is fine. where the problem comes is when the two of you are not compatible when it comes to the frequency or the desired frequency. And that is what may make one of them decide to take something that will enhance the desire.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the other side on performance, I think that was what my brother started answering on. Okay, so when my wife and I start having sex, how long should our sexual activity take place? Now, this one too, we can talk about averages, but we can't actually put a time. You can have a 2-minute satisfying sex with your partner and the two of you are okay and happy. And you can have your 1 hour and the two of you are okay.
So what I wanted to actually be referred to is actually the time for, let me say, penetration.
Penetration.
Yes.
And on the average, normally, I mean, between 4 to 13 minutes is that's the time that is normally between that within that average. The two partners should be satisfied.
Exactly.
If penetration takes that long. And so that is where somebody says, well, my penetration period can last only 2 minutes or under 1 minute.
Exactly.
Then I have a problem. And then what it means is that I am unable to satisfy my partner. But like I have said, it is possible to do under 1 minute and still be able to satisfy each other.
Yeah.
And we will not say you are sick. And that you will need something to enhance you. But the average is that if you can do between 4 to 13 minutes, the two of you, I mean, penetration time, because the whole activity can take 2 days.
Yes. So and I think it's true. I support the fact that it's 2 days because
Pastor just made me laugh and I can take 2.
Yes, the penetration is just an aspect of the sex, but the conversation, the foreplay and the rest are all parts, because some will start from maybe from time you're at work, you start doing the calls and doing the texts, and that's when you start preparing.
I'm learning this for future.
All right.
So when you prepare the grounds, by the time you get there,
then everything is in the mood. Everybody gets satisfied.
In a very yes, you don't need so.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much for the education. I'm laughing because I've actually not had public conversations like this about sex. This is my first public conversation on sex.
But we are not even talking about sex. We are talking about Aphrodisiacs. Maybe on another forum we will talk real sex. Of course, this conversation is important because, these averages that we are given, what will make somebody go for an aphrodisiac will be that the person feels like, well, then I fall below the average. And that is what will make the person want to go for something to enhance it. I don't know if I'm going for something to enhance it so that I can be either within or above the average. Unfortunately, in some instances, people rather want to go far above the average, and that is probably the reason this
but
conversation
Pastor, also
is
sometimes it's from what the person also expects the partner to also have, or what's if the partner needs 3 minutes or to be satisfied, but you can go 2 minutes, then it becomes a problem. Probably you're doing it well, but then the other person is not getting the getting to the average. So even if the person's average is 12 and you are doing within the average, which is let's say 5, the partner that you are with needs 12, so you would have to compensate. That's a dicey one.
Yes, that's a dicey one. Now, when I do, maybe for this consulting room, when I counsel couples, and we are talking about sex, we don't deal with only penetration, because the truth, like he said, penetration is just an aspect.
Yes.
And most of the time, once you are in the process, it is a feeling that, of course, we can train you psychologically to be able to, to pause and do this and do that, fine. But some aspects of it is beyond your control. Yeah. Therefore, I ask couples, look, try to know your partner, know your spouse so well that once you get to know each other well enough, you don't really need that length of penetration to be able to actually satisfy each other. Of course, if it is clear that you fall below the average, I believe doctors can help you out.
Exactly.
But if you are within these averages, you can actually help your partner to actually experience it well through other means. It is not just penile vaginal penetration.
Okay, all right. So going back to aphrodisiacs, do we have side effects?
Okay.
Physically or metabolically in the science part and spiritually from the pastor's perspective.
Okay.
So, Dr. Nyantishi.
Well, medically, there are effects, especially when you overdose it. Because most aphrodisiac, let's say the men, it's to make sure that blood is flowing into your penile region so that it becomes hard. Sometimes it creates dizziness, it creates low pressure, and also it can affect your blood pressure levels, it can alter them. And also long-term use of it, because you are consistently or overdosing it, your muscles in the penile region will get fibrotic. So you realize that people in the quest to make sure that their penile region is hard, now damage it, because now it's like without it, it can't stand. So these are some of the effects that we should be mindful. If you take the doses as doctors have prescribed for you, then you are in the right, you won't really have effects. You might have some little side effects of maybe a headache, but if you have it, you can just report to your doctor and then it can be changed to another one. But aside that,
because we've heard it in the news a couple of times about how they found men, especially I think mostly it's the men that they find dead in hotel rooms, and they spent a night of pleasure with some woman, and they find concoctions and pills, and it looks like these men might have taken those pills, and they died during the act of pleasure. So is that also a side effect of the aphrodisiac, or it's rather linked to their medical conditions?
So sometimes it's about, that's why I was saying that before you take an aphrodisiac, you need to discuss with your doctor.
Or any drug for that matter.
Yes, any drug. So
your doctor or your pharmacist? Pharmacist, you guys are doing a good job.
So if you are able to get the right dose, the right timing, some people even mix the drug with some particular foods that are not supposed to be mixed with. Why would you take an aphrodisiac with an energy drink? That's
this issue of energy drink.
Exactly.
Really,
so the aphrodisiac will make sure that your heart is pumping there. The energy drink is also beating your heart so fast.
Inositol and all the rest.
Exactly. So you end up putting a lot of pressure on your body that will end up making you get all these effects. Then you see them dying. Some also have some conditions that they need to disclose to their doctor or the pharmacist, that I have BP, I have this. Then we know the right drug to give you. But people here, my friend took this drug, so now I'm also going
and it worked for him.
Yes.
Oh.
So
probably
now,
your friend actually went to the doctor and
even if he didn't go to the doctor, his body build-up is different from yours.
Exactly.
So the fact that X worked for him without any visible side effect doesn't mean it will work for you.
Yeah. And men talk among each other. Charlie, this one worked for me. Then the friend will go like, where did you buy it? And you go and buy it. Some also follow this abuchis that we're talking about, which we don't even know what kind of roots that have been mixed, what kind of concoctions, and they take it. This one I wouldn't advise. Even if you take herbal medicines, it should be approved ones that have doses on them from a
Do we have some
doctor.
in Ghana? Because people keep asking me that question, and unfortunately, because I don't know so much about herbal medication, I don't really know what to tell them.
Yes, there are approved herbal medicines
with
for
dosages.
That. Yes, with dosages. And even with the natural herbs that I was talking about, there are some of them that are actually made into a capsulated form that you can take. But without those ones, I wouldn't advise anything that you read online for you to just go and take it. People read things online and then people have turned into Google doctors.
Yes,
and then
yes, yes. Pastor.
Yes, talking about side
The
effects,
side effects.
I would say anything that we take into our body has an effect one way or another, and some are side. Now, so if you take in a drug, it definitely has an effect on you. In the sense of the science, I mean, he is more scientific than I am. You know, once you take in something to, for example, enhance another functioning part of your body, what you are doing is that you are actually making it to work, you are giving it extra work. Now, when it comes to sex, we are talking about the heart pumping blood to a sex organ.
Yeah.
I'm talking in the sense of the male.
yeah.
Okay, so the heart pumping blood to the sense organ. So, for example, a man who thinks that he wants a harder erection would want to take something that would enhance more blood flow to the penile region for the erection to be harder. That is it. What you are doing is that you are making the heart to work
Overwork,
more
yeah.
than.
and once somebody is overworking, the person gets tired eventually. Now, I'm not talking about he getting tired, I mean, during the
yes,
act.
yes.
It is possible that it can happen during the act. And chances are that these deaths that happen in hotels and whatnot are because of the functioning, the overwork of the heart. Of course, because sex also goes with energy, you are using muscles, you are using your
I think that's why
energy.
they take energy drink.
And that is why they will take an energy drink, so that they would be able to have the strength to overwork the body. And that can actually shut down somebody's parts, like the heart. But I want to even look at it in the long term. Let us assume that your heart doesn't stop, your muscles help you, you're able to do your 2-3 hours, and your woman is impressed, your man is impressed. What you are actually doing to your body for the future is that, one, you are making your entire self dependent on that drug.
Yeah.
To the extent that it is possible that that drug will eventually not be able to give you the desired function. So you are likely to be going for more and more and more doses. If it is not a well prescribed in a good dose and all that, you are actually killing other parts of your body. So that is mainly what you are doing. Sometimes it may even get to a point where it's likely to eventually destroy everything. So that you can get the strength, you can get the enhancement and all that. But eventually, you may not be able to even do anything, and no other drug can resurrect the dead. And becomes now. But then, when we talk about, there are some. When we started, we talked about food. I mean, some are foods. I mean, there are some food. I mean, fruits, vegetables that we know that when you eat this, it has this effect on you. It is food. My caution is that too much of everything, no matter how good that thing is bad. So you don't abuse it. This fruit or this food enhances my health. So every day you eat it. Of course, it doesn't help you. It's not healthy. So these are the effects. Let me also talk about the psychology.
Yes.
Eventually, what happens is that psychologically you become dependent, and most of these are addictive. And addiction is actually destructive. So you are ultimately destroying yourself if you actually want to depend on sex enhancing.
And more so starting at an early age, somewhere 18 years.
Exactly.
You have so many years ahead of you.
At that age, you actually have the natural one already. So what are you adding on to it? And that is it. So once you start early, you are destroying, and then by the time you are 30, you begin getting to 7 o'clock. When I say 7 o'clock, I mean...
But
6 o'clock.
Yes.
Hey, why is 7 o'clock?
6 o'clock is down there. 7 o'clock is a little up. But ideally, it should be from 9, 10.
Okay.
That's normal.
My mind is...
It's around the clock, all right.
But I think mentally too, some of especially the female enhancing aphrodisiac has a little bit of effect on the brain, just to make them have that libido. So if for long-term use, sometimes it affects the dopamine effects, and then sometimes it can even give you depression. Because of the long-term use of aphrodisiacs over time.
Expose your brain to a certain amount of the dopamine.
Yes.
So if you don't get it past that level,
exactly,
you're not going to
you
feel...
always want to feel that arousal, and so because of that effect, long-term wise, it also affects them mentally.
Okay. So recently I came in contact with a young man, quite young, and he was having a priapism, that is sustained erection, and he came with a very bizarre history. So eventually my boss had to draw my attention to the fact that he had taken a certain drug, which I'm thinking was an aphrodisiac, and the effect was that for almost 8 hours he had an erection. And I referred him to a bigger facility, but I called to check and he didn't go there. He said he was going to his hometown.
I had
so
a case.
he's going to lose his manhood.
To lose it?
It's not. So it wouldn't work as much as it's supposed to, or it can even be dead. Yeah.
No, I had a case. I couldn't determine whether there had been some, because mine was more counseling related than medical related. Of course, I just had to refer the person to a medic. And, I suspect that it's possible that this sustained erection is because of an aphrodisiac, because that is what some of them will do to you. And we've seen funny instances, maybe video of somebody taking an aphrodisiac and his date doesn't turn up.
Yes.
And then he's in trouble and all that. We just have to know that these things worry us in terms of our health, in terms of our physics, and we should be careful about them.
Okay. So we are having a very interesting conversation, as usual, concerning aphrodisiacs. We've gotten to know what they are. We know that there are some natural, there are some synthetic ones, or the chemical forms. And if you need to use them, it has to be prescribed by a doctor, be it an alternative doctor who is registered, or an orthodox doctor, or the normal doctors we see in hospitals. We've heard about the side effects. I don't think you'd want to, at a ripe age of 30 years, not have an erection to satisfy your wife. And that would be very frustrating for both you and your partner. We've heard about all these things. If you have any questions or any contributions, you can send them to us on 055-968-0066. 055-968-0066. We have cocoa milk as usual in the consulting room. It's the natural milk. It doesn't have any dairy. So if you are lactose intolerant, you can take it. If you are a breastfeeding mother, or you are an elderly person, everybody can take it. It's not an aphrodisiac. It is just a natural milk. So we'll go for our very first break, and when we come back, we'll dive into the ethical and the moral side of aphrodisiacs and its use, and whether the Bible supports its use as well. So do well to stay tuned, and when we come back, all these questions will be answered.
Coconut milk. Cocoa dairy-free coconut milk. It's a fully plant-based milk, non-curdling in tea or coffee, and it's a lovely treat with any breakfast beverage or meal. It contains calcium and vitamin D2 for strong teeth and bones, and vitamin B12 to help boost your blood for vitality. Cocoa is 100% vegetarian and is approved by the Vegetarian Society of UK. It's also lactose and dairy-free, which is good even for people with lactose intolerance. Cocoa, get one today. Cocoa dairy-free coconut milk. Nature's health at your doorstep. For bulk purchases, contact 027-444-0180. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA. Cocoa dairy-free coconut milk.
overusing it can cause you to lose your manhood in the long term, especially for the men. And for women too, you overusing it can lead you to have some mental health challenges, because I'm sure eventually your whole ego will be based on it. We've spoken about what they are, the side effects. But then our next part of the conversation is about the morality and the ethical issues concerning aphrodisiacs. So as a medic, I always want us to go from the medical side before we go to the social side, because this is the consulting room, so we start from medicine and go. Pastor,
I understand.
yes. So, what are some of the? I know for medics it would be mostly the ethical side.
Yeah,
is it right for you to sell these things to people or prescribe it?
I think for the laws of Ghana, 16 years and above can be sexually active, and there's nothing wrong with it. So once the person is sexually active, he has a will to actually seek medical help in any part that the person needs. So with regards to that, when you come and you are below 18 years, because you are a minor, you would need some sort of counseling to be sure that what you need is what you actually need. With that side aside, people who are older than 18 years and above can seek medical help to enhance their sexual performance. That's medically, you have to establish the fact that the person really needs it. People who normally come to the medic side would be people who actually have a normal erection or can do it, but they just want to overdo it. In that sense, you would want to refer to maybe a counseling section to psych them up to know that sex is not all about the timing and all that. But if the person is older enough, that one to medically, let's say he's taking a particular drug which is affecting the sexual performance, we will prescribe. If the person is older, too, we will prescribe. So that's the ethical part. But sometimes it's a bit dicey, because you can't, it's like someone who is a minor coming to tell you, you can't even disclose it to the parents.
Yeah.
You have to actually deal with your patient as patient. If your patient doesn't allow you to send the case to a counselor, you can't. So that's the ethical part of it. But sometimes we advise them and they listen and they're able to seek other help. But aside that, it doesn't stop us from giving out the drug if the person actually needs it.
Okay. So you can sell to an 18-year-old boy
if it is prescribed.
Don't mind me.
But not to bring back, some aphrodisiacs are actually used for heart purposes.
Yes.
The most famous aphrodisiacs was found as they were trying to make a BP drug.
Yeah, pulmonary
and they found
hypertension.
That
the history behind it is that people started requesting for that antihypertensive
they were
because their friends were using it and
it was having a side effect,
that's
which was positive.
Yes.
So that's how come that drug came. And now the side effects have become the main
one. So when people come to the hospital with pulmonary hypertension and you prescribe it for them, they get confused, because we all know this very popular drug as being for sex enhancement and
Okay. So I think for the ethics side, I think that's it.
Okay. So
well, let me say, sex biblically is reserved for the married. So I believe that God made sex for two main purposes: for pleasure and for procreation. Normally procreation, of course, sometimes procreation poses issues, but the pleasure part is actually the main point. In fact, some definitions of aphrodisiacs, they even add the element of procreation. You know, where I am taking it to enhance my chances of procreating. We have biblical examples. In fact, there is a fruit, a plant, mandrakes, in the Bible, which, you know, I brought this Bible for for the sake of this.
Yes, yes.
Song of Solomon, 7, you know, from verse 11 through 13. By the way, Song of Songs is a love song where, you know, two lovers are. So it's poetic, very poetic. So the woman is talking to the lover and then says, "Come, my beloved, let us go to the field. Let us lodge in the villages. Let us get up early to the vineyards. Let us see if the vine has budded, whether the grapes blossom are open and the pomegranates are in bloom. There I will give you my love." Now, this is a sex date. Actually, she's planning. And then in verse 13, she says, "The mandrakes give off a fragrance, and at our gates are pleasant fruits, all manner, new and old, which I have laid up for you, my beloved." In other words, I have prepared something that will enhance your performance in this sex date. So we have an example of this in the Bible. By the way, the Song of Solomon example is an example of what occurs in marriage. We have the same mandrakes in Genesis chapter 30. You know, this has to do with Jacob's Jacob's wives. I mean, Leah and Rahel. You know, from verse 14, Reuben went to the field in the days of wheat, and then he found mandrakes, and in the field brought them to his mother Leah, who by now had 4 children.
Yes, so
Rahel wasn't having children at all. And then Rahel went and begged for them. And then Leah said, "Well, if you are getting them, then I will take it at barter. Allow me to sleep with our husband tonight, so I can give you." Now, why was she asking for it? She was asking for it because it is a known aphrodisiac. And it's, some of its impacts is that it can help in fertility. And so she actually bought it with giving away a night with her husband to her sister. Now, I am given these examples to say we have examples of aphrodisiac use in the Bible. All happening within the context of marriage. I do not know of prescription in this context, but because this is in the food category, it is like, I mean, me finding a food substance that enhances my sexuality, and then I decide to eat it. Is it wrong to do that? I believe that's the question.
Yes.
I don't think it is wrong to eat a food substance that enhances my sexuality. There's nothing wrong with eating something that will help me to enjoy sex better.
In the context of
in
marriage.
the context of marriage. There is also nothing wrong with seeking medical help. If the sexuality that God has given me and my spouse, I have a problem and there is a medical help for me. So if I should go to the pharmacy, if I should go to the doctor, and then tell the person, "Well, I am having this challenge, this health challenge. Therefore, I need a drug or I need a prescription that will help me." I don't think there's anything wrong. Where we will have a problem is when there is abuse of it. And when I talk about abuse, I am talking about, if assuming I discover a food item that is giving me a certain effect and I abuse it, then there is a problem. Or when I discover a drug and then I abuse it, then it creates a problem. Problem in the sense of, okay, so why am I abusing it? Because the Bible actually teaches moderation in everything.
Yes.
So even if it is within the context of marriage, I would have to ensure that I do it in moderation, so that I am not going to, it is just me and my wife, me and my husband, enjoying the pleasure of sex. So I would have to ensure that I don't overdo, you know, so to speak. It is to give my wife pleasure, it is to give my husband pleasure. And that is what we are doing. So whatever we do within that context, that helps, that gives us pleasure, that enhances our performance, will not be wrong.
It doesn't have to become our God.
It doesn't have to become our God. Now, the other side of it is, when you are doing something that you know will harm you, especially since we have come out with some side effects. So once we know of these, then our caution is in the fact that our body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. Therefore, you don't go into something that will harm your body. Once you do that, you're actually destroying the temple of the Holy Spirit, and that it's something that we have to. You know, every time we quote that passage, we are talking about other sins.
Yes.
Yeah. But sometimes, even within the context of the holy thing that you are doing, you can be sinning against your body.
Okay. All right. So, thank you very much. Joining us on Zoom, we have Mr. Seth Asafo. Please, if you hear us, you're welcome to the consulting room. We've had most of the conversation without you, but we'll be glad to have your thoughts on aphrodisiacs. Good evening, Mr. Asafo.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Please, so far we've spoken about aphrodisiacs, what they are, the categories. We've spoken about some side effects, and currently we are talking about the morality and the ethical considerations concerning the use of aphrodisiacs. So if you can give us your take on that, we would be grateful.
Okay, thank you very much. I think the first perspective that I would like to share with us is that if you look at the scope of aphrodisiacs, in the past, aphrodisiacs have usually been used as curative and enhancing properties, especially for people who've been experiencing some form of, sexual performance, related issues. Unfortunately, in recent times, we are seeing more people. So, for example, we know that during old age, a lot of people who age, the sexual prowess generally decreases. But now it's really very common among the youth who should be well in the prime of their sexual prowess. Use these aphrodisiacs sadly, and of course, if you look at what an aphrodisiac is, it's anything that enhances either desire, the actual performance, potency, which has to do with virality, being able to give that, and also anything that puts you in a general sense of, let's say, positive performance when it comes to sex. Now, if you ask me whether people should use aphrodisiacs, just like Pastor was explaining, in moderation, yes. As a result of a challenge that they're experiencing sexually, yes. So if you look at the human sexual response, normally challenges of sexual disorders may start either from the first phase of desire, which is their feeling, the feeling of engaging in the act, or the second stage with the excitability. So for example, is a man able to get erection enough to sustain a sexual activity, or is a woman able to get lubrication enough to accept? Then you look at the phase of orgasm. So are people able to get orgasm or not, both males and females? So aphrodisiacs through and through have been used to manage performance issues in these domains. Now, anything outside this domain, for which I believe can be achieved normally, forms an immoral part of the use of aphrodisiacs. And I give you a typical example. In our practice as mental health practitioners, there is a particular medication, and I will not mention it on air so that people understand.
Yes.
But that particular medication is an antipsychotic. So we give that medication to people who have mental health challenges. What the unaided eye would say a mad person. So let me just use that in context. Now, a side effect of that medication is the ability to inhibit ejaculatory functions in men, which means that they are more likely to stay on longer before they ejaculate. And you'll be surprised how abused this particular drug is.
Oh, really?
Because many people use it as an aphrodisiac.
And they don't see it that it's mad people medicine. For that using. No, you know the stigma. You know that the stigma with mental health issues and how we try to avoid everything. So if you're avoiding mental health issues, Why are you taking the drug?
Yeah.
Because I believe it's an aphrodisiac. It's a sexual enhancer.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with mental health whatsoever. Okay. Now, in the same way, when you talk about morality, we are drawn to the attention of how in the morning times a lot of people are getting addicted to many psychoactive substances, including marijuana and their family. So, like, marijuana is predominantly very much abused, all in the scope of it enhances sexual performance. And I mean, the two most common abused drugs are alcohol and marijuana. So if you have to use these substances to aid sexual performance, the challenge is beyond the performance are other side effects, which then makes it problematic.
Yeah.
So if you ask me, I'd say aphrodisiacs, if used for the right purpose, is great. Outside of the purpose of using it, either because somebody has a legitimate health concern or that because they're aging, and not for the sole aim of making a conquest, which is very typical in males.
Yeah.
Then we are looking at it from a very problematic phase. And like we've always explained that if you look at what should be done in terms of the duration of sexual intercourse, you're on a plus or minus 5, 1 plus 1 outside. So like between 4 and 6 minutes. So, you know, every time you hear people say, I want to do 1 hour, you're wearing your heart out. Okay, you're basically wearing your heart out, 1. 2, you're causing many other problems, forgetting the fact that every time, especially in males, okay, you get an erection, it's actually your heart feeling those soft muscles in the penis to get erect. Now, if you start pushing it with all these chemicals, at some point when the heart loses its potency as much, then it becomes very difficult for people to have erections. And we've been drawn to many of such emergencies where people abuse aphrodisiacs and have an erection that won't go away, which we call pride.
Yeah, we just mentioned
that is a medical emergency.
Yeah,
so
it is.
Also, I think I missed that, but then you can see how dangerous these things are.
Yeah.
For example, the medication Viagra was never made as an aphrodisiac. Viagra was made for the heart.
Yeah.
But they noted that its side effect was actually keeping erection. So what happened? It became a sex pill because it sells.
Yeah, sex sells. It does.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
So ethically, these are important things we should know.
Okay, so this question will be for you, Pastor. I think you've spoken a bit about it, but then what is the actual stance of our church, the Adventist church, concerning the use of aphrodisiacs? If you can make it clear, because sometimes some people might actually need help and they'll say SDA4 there, or what's the stance of the church?
Okay, let me say,
not just on aphrodisiacs, and also sex enhancing.
Actually, the statement that the church has made is on drugs.
Okay.
And drug use, as it were. You know, I'm trying to read something. You know, the Seventh-day Adventist Church urges every individual and every nation to cooperate in stamping out the worldwide drug epidemic that undermines the social structure of nations and on the individual level often kills its victims and leads them into lives of crime. So this is more like drug. So if you have some, you know, drug restrictions within your country, the church says every Adventist should abide by it. Now, but beyond that, the Adventist church believes that the Bible teaches that each human body is a temple of the living God, which should be cared for intelligently. First, 2 Corinthians 6, 15 to 17. So the church, the church's Bible-based fundamental belief number 22 states, along with adequate exercise and rest, we are to adopt the most helpful diet possible. Since then they mention some examples: alcoholic beverages, tobacco, and the irresponsible use of drugs and narcotics are harmful to our bodies. We are to abstain from them. Instead, we are to engage in whatever brings our thoughts and bodies into the discipline of Christ, who desires our wholesomeness, joy, and goodness. So the idea is that once you're a Seventh-day Adventist, you should know that anything that harms your body is a sin.
It's a sin. Yeah.
Once it harms your body, so it can even be a drug that is not an aphrodisiac. Once it harms your body, and for me, it harms your body if it isn't prescribed by somebody who is qualified to prescribe it. So if you buy something from an abochi or whoever, it's not prescribed. You know. Then the last part says that for vibrant living, Seventh-day Adventists urge everyone to follow a lifestyle that avoids tobacco products, alcoholic beverages, and the misuse of drugs. And I will put the misuse of drugs within the context of, I'll put, the use of aphrodisiacs within the context of misuse of drugs. And that is what the church, counsels against. The church says that once you do that, it is a sin. And there's biblical evidence to it. You are sinning against your body, which is the temple of the Holy Spirit.
All right. So, Mr. Asafo, this question would be for you. So, I'm just told that he's off.
We lost him.
Yes. Okay. So, are there any mental health challenges? You briefly mentioned depression, especially in women, concerned because of the dopamine. But then aside depression, are there any mental health challenges associated with the use of aphrodisiacs?
Okay, so I think it's more, I would put it more to the fact that when they start getting the effects and it's no longer working, physically, sex is a mental thing. You need your mindset to be there and all that. So if you don't get the desired, with time you are getting it, now you're not getting it anymore. You become dependent on it. So that alone puts you in a very different mental state, that is to say. And I think it is, let me also put it from this point of view, that most of these abuse of aphrodisiacs is because of the kind of fantasies that people have with regards to sex, owing to the fact that maybe they're watching pornography.
They are. It's all over.
They're hearing from friends and all that. So that fantasy would put you to desire something which is unrealistic. And this one, you need a psychologist to actually speak to you, a counselor to speak to you, to understand that these things that you see in pornography, it's not realistic.
It's not real.
They are acting.
Exactly. So, and they are on drugs.
Yes.
And so you may want to also use drugs to be able to do what they do, but you lack the camera.
Exactly.
And so,
They lack the camera.
You don't have the camera, so you may have to do more, which you can't do. I don't know if you finished. Therefore, you even feel, it affects your ego, actually. The very fact that you would have to take something to help you to perform even affects your ego and your your self-worth, your self-confidence, because if I don't take this, I cannot perform.
That's if you go somewhere you won't get something,
and you don't get it. And
this drug that the Safu was talking about, it's used for mental health people, and you come to the pharmacy, you want to buy it, and you can imagine what psychotic effects that you're going to get on it, even though you get your erection. Some even can yawn for days, but they still take it, which is a very bad side effect, but they still want to take it. So I think we should just be mindful about the abuse. We are not saying you can't use it. You can use it, but then overdoing it or taking it when it's not prescribed, morally, is even wrong.
Yes.
Okay, so do we talk about the use of aphrodisiacs during counseling? Since and by counseling I mean
premarital counseling.
Yes.
Well, it comes up. It may not. I've not really personally, I've not really had a full session with a couple on that. There's a session with the couple on sex. Now, for me, in my session with couples on sex, we talk about what elements of sex is a no for you as a couple. All right, so the couple would discuss with me, or we would set down the rules. Okay, so for us, we are not going to do this element of sex. This element of sex is out of, it's not going to happen in our home. And then we agree. Yeah. This is how we want our sex to be like. Now, in one or two instances, there have been this element of, we are not going to think of any way of trying to, enhance, that it comes up because we are discussing sex. But and of course, because of this discussion, I think that, and I'm reaching out to other counselors, that it should be made
50% of men.
Exactly. It should be made a critical part of the discussion. Yeah. In the sense that, now, for all you know, the couple sitting before you, one of them or both of them have previously used aphrodisiacs. Now they are getting married, and they will by all means have sex. Under normal circumstances, a normal couple will have sex. Yeah. So they will have sex. But how is their sex life going to be like, with or without aphrodisiacs? Now, if the one of them was previously dependent on it, and now they are going to have it, and that doesn't come up here, what will happen will be, they will go, and the day that one does not get it. I've had a case where, in this is not a premarital case, this is a case where the woman thinks, in fact, began at a point in the marriage, she began suspecting that the husband cannot function unless he takes in something. She hasn't, yet figured out that. So, we held that discussion because she's realized that there are times that he's unable to she will play with whatever she needs to play with, and to just sleep. But when he is ready and is able to do. So she began suspecting something like that. So I believe that this can become a very critical part of premarital discussions.
I think something came in mind that, let's say this couple, before married, and maybe there's a lady who has been with a man who uses aphrodisiacs. So now the lady thinks that men...
This is the ideal.
Yes. So that could also affect. Yes. Maybe the guy is not taking it, but the lady was with
somebody.
So that one, how do you deal with it? As
no, you see, you are making it look like
you start rounding now because
it's not only the men who take. Ladies also take. But of course it's more prevalent among. Yeah. So when by this we are just dealing with previous sex experience. Yeah. Okay, so the person's previous sex experience has probably exposed him or her to something, to a particular texture, to a particular strength, a particular whatever. And then I meet this new person and I don't get it. I tell couples that two people having sex is never the same. Now, if one person, should have sex with two different people, it is different with both of them. So you would have to make sure you tailor the sex to the person that you have. Because once you pick one and put it to another, and that is why it is best to have just one problem. You can manage that problem and you'll be fine.
Okay. I think we have so much more to say, but this is where time will allow us to come to. Very soon, another time, we'll have a more in-depth conversation on the medical side and the counseling side of sex. And then maybe aphrodisiacs will come in again. So join us every Monday at 8 p.m. In the consulting room, and be sure to learn a whole lot about your whole life, your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual and your psychological health as well. So do well to join us every Monday at 8 p.m. in the consulting room. Have a good evening.